The afternoon sun burned sharp through the canyon dust when Lydia Cross, a single mother of two, locked up her flower shop and stepped outside. Her youngest, Emma, 6 years old, twirled a paper pinwheel in the warm wind. Copper Ridge, Wyoming, 4:32 p.m. The street was quiet except for the hum of tires on Highway 19. Lydia turned to load boxes into her truck when a man she didn't recognize stepped from behind the corner store. Before we start the story, tell us, where in the world are you watching this from? And if you enjoy our stories, please consider subscribing to our channel. It'll help us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers and keep sharing more inspiring content with you. He was tall, unkempt, eyes clouded from liquor or worse. "Cute kid," he muttered. Lydia froze, pulling Emma behind her. "Don't touch my daughter," she snapped, voice cutting like a blade. The man smirked and took another step forward. Then a sound broke the still air. Not words, not sirens, but a low rolling thunder, engines, many of them. Around the bend, Hellsangels' Copper Ridge charter roared into town, chrome blazing, the kind of sound that makes the air tremble before justice arrives. The stranger stiffened, glancing toward the highway as the first Harley slid into view. Matte black, handlebars high, the rider's vest stitched with white wings and red letters. Ronan Vale, the club's sergeant-at-arms, cut the engine beside Lydia's truck. His boots hit the ground slow, deliberate. "Everything all right, ma'am?" he asked, voice calm but carrying the weight of 100 rides. Lydia pointed. "That man followed us," the stranger scoffed. "I didn't touch her." Ronan's gaze never wavered. "But you were going to." He took one step closer. The rest of the angels lined the street, silent, unified, 50 men against one. The stranger tried to retreat, but behind him stood Tess Calloway, the bar owner, phone already in hand. "Sheriff's on his way," she said. The man cursed, panicking. Ronan tilted his head. Too late. The angels closed ranks around him. The sound of engines still humming low, like the growl before a storm you never see coming. When Sheriff Clint Weller arrived, the air smelled of exhaust and fear. The Hells Angels had formed a semicircle around the man, who now sat trembling on the curb. Lydia held Emma tight, eyes wide. Clint knew better than to draw his weapon. The angels weren't enemies. They were a force of nature. "What's the charge?" he asked. Ronan replied evenly, intent to harm a child. "We stopped it," the sheriff sighed. "Let me handle it from here." Ronan stepped back, but not far. "We will, once you do." The sheriff cuffed the man, muttering rights. "Name?" he asked. "Kyle Denton," came the reply. Clint frowned. "He's out on parole. Assault record from Cheyenne." He looked at Ronan. "You just saved this town a headline." The biker gave a slow nod, eyes flicking to Lydia. "She's safe. That's all that matters." The sheriff turned toward the growing crowd. "Everybody clear out!" But Copper Ridge didn't move. No one ever left before the angels did. The story spread through Copper Ridge faster than wildfire. By sunset, every porch light was on, every conversation circling the same thing, how the angels had arrived just in time. At the clubhouse by the ridge, Ronan cleaned his bike under the glow of a single bulb. "You think they'll twist it?" asked Brick, the club's vice president. "They always do," Ronan said. "Doesn't matter. We don't ride for thanks." Still, something in his voice betrayed thought, that look on Lydia's face, halfway between fear and relief. He'd seen it before in other towns, other roads, where people believed the angels were monsters until monsters came for them. Outside, coyotes howled across the valley. Ronan exhaled smoke, staring into the distance. "We did right today," Brick said. "Yeah," Ronan answered softly, "but right never lasts long out here." He didn't know that by morning, Copper Ridge would wake to a warning carved in asphalt, one that no one would forget. At dawn, the sheriff's cruiser idled outside Lydia's shop. Tire marks curved across Main Street. Black rubber letters scrawled in looping arcs. 4 words, "We watch our own." Locals gathered, whispering. Some said the angels left it, others swore they didn't. Lydia stepped closer, hand on her heart. "Maybe it's a warning," someone muttered. She shook her head. "No, it's protection." Across town, Ronan parked his Harley near the overlook. The rising sun painted the valley gold. His phone buzzed, a message from Brick Town's talking. "You got fans." Ronan smiled faintly. "Not fans," he muttered. "Witnesses." Down below, Lydia opened her shop again, this time without checking her shoulder. The engines were gone, but their echo lingered through Copper Ridge like a promise, steady, unshakable, and louder than fear itself. By mid-morning, the calm of Copper Ridge had turned restless. The sheriff's office buzzed with rumors that Kyle Denton had friends headed north. 2 men in a black truck had been spotted near the old mine road, asking where the biker boys stayed. Clint Weller rubbed his temples. "We don't need another war," he muttered. Out on the ridge, Ronan received the same news via radio. "Word is Denton ran with the Badger crew," Brick said. "Small-time dealers, big-time stupid." Ronan lit a cigarette. "Then they'll come angry." He stared down at the town. "We ride after dark. Keep it quiet." That evening, Lydia locked up early, sensing the air shift, that strange stillness that comes before bad things. She caught sight of a Harley's headlights sweeping across the hill and felt oddly safe. Inside her shop, Emma slept on the counter beneath her mother's jacket. Outside, engines began to whisper in the distance, forming a low hum that promised retribution if harm dared return. Just after midnight, the black pickup rolled into town, headlights off. 2 men stepped out, tattoos crawling up their necks. "We find that angel leader," one said. "Teach him not to mess with Denton's people." They crept toward the ridge road, unaware that the mountain had ears and engines. From the shadows, Ronan watched through the trees, his men positioned like sentinels. He radioed softly, "Wait till they move first." The intruders reached the sheriff's office, peering through the window. One drew a crowbar. "We send a message," he hissed. But before metal met glass, a single Harley revved behind them, a roar that tore through the stillness like a lion's growl. The men turned, faces pale. Headlights ignited all around them. 10, 20, 30. The road filled with chrome and vengeance. Ronan dismounted, walking slow. "This town's under our guard," he said. "You're trespassing on protected ground," one man stammered. "We didn't—" "You did," Ronan interrupted. "Now you listen to our warning. The hellsangels didn't shout. They didn't hit. They surrounded the men with silence, a circle of idling engines and eyes that had seen too much to bluff. Rex, the club's road captain, a man built like brick and thunder, stepped forward, flipping his knife open, then closing it again. "We don't hurt unarmed cowards," he said, "but we carve memory deep." He nodded to Jake, who handed the men 2 wrenches. "You fix the scratches you made on that woman's store window," Rex ordered. "You clean up every trace. You do it now." Trembling, they obeyed. By the time dawn pinked the sky, the 2 stood sweating, bleeding from scrapes, wiping glass and paint from the storefront. Lydia appeared at the doorway, frozen in disbelief. "Who?" she began. Ronan simply tipped his head. "You're safe now." The men stumbled back to their truck, humiliated. On the hood, freshly painted in oil and dust, 4 words gleamed in sunlight: "Touch ours, pay twice." Word traveled faster than gasoline fire. By noon, the whole county whispered that Copper Ridge belonged to the angels now, not in fear, but in gratitude. Sheriff Weller pulled up outside the clubhouse. "You made your point," he said. "Now let me handle the rest." Ronan shrugged. "You had your chance before. Clint sighed, leaning on his cruiser. They were coming for you, not the town. There's no difference anymore, Ronan said. Not while she's still here. The sheriff raised an eyebrow. The flower lady? The one who stood up, Ronan corrected. She reminds people this place is worth saving. Clint studied him for a long moment. You ever think of hanging it up? Ronan smirked. Can't. The road still talks. Back at her shop, Lydia found a folded piece of paper slipped under the door. Keep the lights on. We'll ride close. She smiled despite herself, tucking it into her cash register, a promise disguised as a threat, and both meant safety. That night, Copper Ridge glowed under streetlights that once flickered with fear. The angels rode through town in formation. No revving, no bravado, just quiet authority. Lydia stood at her doorway with Emma in her arms, watching them pass. Ronan slowed his Harley, nodded once, then kept going. The crowd along Main Street didn't clap or cheer. They simply stepped aside, as if honoring soldiers returning from unseen battlefields. Behind the bikes came a single truck, carrying a new wooden sign. They planted it at the town's entrance before sunrise. It read, Welcome to Copper Ridge, where family has wings. By morning the town felt different, not ruled, not frightened, but guarded by something bigger than law. The engines faded beyond the ridge, leaving silence thick with respect. Lydia looked toward the hills, whispering, Thank you. In the distance, a lone rev echoed back, one last heartbeat of thunder, one final warning carved in wind. No one touches what the angels protect. 3 days later, the peace broke like a snapped chain. Sheriff Weller got the call first. A delivery truck hijacked on Highway 19, driver beaten, cargo missing. Drugs? He asked. The dispatcher hesitated. No, sir, weapons. Clint's stomach dropped. Denton's people. Out at the clubhouse, Brick slammed a crate onto the table. Inside lay 6 stolen rifles, the ones the truck had been carrying before it was hit. They're setting us up, he said. Word'll spread that we took this shipment. Ronan's jaw tightened. Then we ride first. He turned to Rex. Take 10 men, sweep the canyon. No colors, no mistakes. Meanwhile, Lydia noticed a car parked across from her shop every night, engine running but lights off. Fear crept back into her spine like frost. She wanted to call the sheriff, but instead she found herself whispering toward the dark. I know you're there, somewhere up the ridge. Ronan's voice cut through his radio. Keep eyes on the florist. They're coming for her to get to us. The trap snapped faster than anyone expected. 2 men in ski masks burst into Lydia's shop the next evening, demanding cash and something else. Where's the phone number he gave you? One snarled, flipping over a vase. Lydia froze. What number? The man shoved a shelf, glass exploding against the floor. Emma screamed from the back room. Please, Lydia started, but the back door crashed open before she could finish. Ronan entered first, followed by 3 angels, eyes cold as knives. The taller intruder swung a crowbar. Ronan caught it midair and drove his fist into the man's gut. The other bolted but didn't get far. Rex tackled him through the doorway, floorboards cracking beneath impact. Silence followed, heavy as thunder before rain. Ronan's chest heaved, dust floating through sunlight. You all right? He asked Lydia. She nodded, trembling. How did you— We don't wait for trouble, he said. We track it. The sheriff arrived minutes later, but justice had already happened. Clint paced the crime scene, trying to make sense of what he saw. 2 unconscious men, a shattered shop, and the angels standing like stone statues in the wreckage. You can't keep doing this, he said. People are scared. Ronan wiped blood from his knuckles. So were they yesterday. Now they're safe. The sheriff sighed, rubbing his temple. You think the county's gonna let this slide? Half the board already wants you gone. Ronan stepped closer. Then tell them to send someone who can ride through a storm and still sleep at night." Clint stared at him, then lowered his voice. "You saved that kid twice now. But this ain't over. Denton's crew wants something in this town. I can feel it." Rex spoke from the doorway. "Then we find what they came for, before they torch another home." Outside, Lydia sat on the curb with Emma, tears drying in her eyes. She looked up as the angels passed, whispering, "Whatever they came for, they picked the wrong town." Night cloaked Copper Ridge again. The angels set up checkpoints along every road in and out of town, not with barricades, but with presence. A truck driver crossing the ridge would see a headlight in his mirror, then another, until the whole line shimmered like red warning lights. Inside the clubhouse, maps sprawled across tables. Brick pointed to the quarry south of the valley. "That's where Denton's boys worked last summer. Rumor says there's a weapons stash left behind." Ronan nodded. "Then that's where we finish it." They rolled out before dawn, 50 engines echoing between cliffs, their headlights carving gold paths through the fog. At the quarry's edge, they found what they were looking for. Crates buried under tops, military-grade gear marked with serials from the hijacked truck. But before they could move, a rifle cracked. Dust kicked near Ronan's boot. Ambush. From the ridge above, masked men opened fire. "Down!" he shouted. Chrome flashed, echo met echo. The angels had come to protect. Now they had to survive. The firefight lasted less than 10 minutes, but felt like eternity. The angels moved with military precision. Veterans, fathers, brothers, who'd learned the language of chaos. Bullets sparked off rocks. Engines shielded bodies. Rex fired from behind a stack of tires, dropping the last shooter's weapon clean from his hands. Then silence returned, filled only by the hiss of cooling barrels. Ronan scanned the ridge. 2 of Denton's men wounded, 1 dead, and no trace of their leader. "He'll run back to town," Brick said. "He wants the woman," Ronan cursed. "Then we're already late." They roared back into Copper Ridge as dawn painted the mountains pink. Lydia stood outside her shop again, unaware of what rode toward her. The sheriff's cruiser skidded in beside her, siren off, but urgency loud. "Inside now," he ordered. As she stepped back, the rumble returned, a sound the town had come to recognize not as fear, but fate. The angels had come home to finish what Denton started. The roar reached Lydia's street like thunder, riding on purpose. 60 bikes surged in formation, engines syncing like a single heartbeat. Sheriff Weller shouted for civilians to clear the sidewalks as Ronan and his men stopped in front of the flower shop. "Where?" he asked, voice low. The sheriff pointed toward the old sawmill road. "He's cornered near the grain silos. Took one of my deputies hostage." Ronan nodded once. "Then we go quiet." Lydia stepped forward before she could stop herself. "I want to help," she said. "You already did," Ronan replied gently. "You reminded this town what's worth protecting." He swung onto his Harley, eyes burning beneath the visor. "Lock your doors." Lydia caught Emma's hand as the riders peeled out, exhaust curling into the rising sun. From her window she watched them disappear up the hill, engines fading into the distance. Copper Ridge held its breath, waiting to see if noise or silence would decide its fate. The sawmill stood hollow, beams warped with age, dust hanging thick as ghosts. Inside, Denton crouched behind a conveyor belt, pistol pressed to the deputy's temple. "Tell them to back off," he screamed. Ronan's voice carried through the rafters. "Let him go, Kyle. The road doesn't have to end this way." Denton laughed, wild and cracked. "You think you own this town now? You're just criminals with better PR." Ronan stepped closer, hands open, unarmed. "We own nothing," he said quietly. "We just keep the wolves from eating their own." Denton fired once, the bullet grazing Ronan's shoulder. Rex and Brick flanked from the sides, guns drawn but steady. "Drop it!" Rex barked. The deputy elbowed Denton's arm, breaking free. A second shot rang, and then silence. Dust drifted in shafts of sunlight, swirling around the man who'd caused weeks of fear. Denton lay face down, weapon kicked away. Ronan pressed a hand to his shoulder wound, grimacing. "Call Weller," he said, "and tell him it's over." When the sheriff arrived, he found the angels standing in a line, helmets under their arms, faces calm. "He's dead?" Clint asked. Ronan nodded. "He made his choice." The sheriff glanced at the broken pistol, then at Ronan's bleeding shoulder. "You'll need a hospital." "We'll handle it," Ronan said. Clint hesitated. "You know, for an outlaw, you keep saving my jurisdiction." Ronan smirked. "Maybe I just hate paperwork." A laugh rippled through the men, low, relieved, human. Back in town, word spread faster than radio signals. Lydia closed her shop early, hands trembling as she wiped petals off the counter. When she looked out the window, she saw them returning, the hellsangels, slow and solemn. The townsfolk gathered silently as the convoy rolled down Main Street. No cheers, no applause, just respect. Children waved small flags. One old veteran saluted. For once, no one saw criminals, only guardians who turned chaos into peace. The sheriff's siren wailed once, not in warning, but in salute. That night, Copper Ridge glowed under porch lights instead of fear. Lydia found Ronan sitting on the curb outside her shop, arm in a sling, cigarette burning low. "You should rest," she said softly. "Can't sleep when the road's still humming," he replied. She smiled faintly. "I used to think you men were dangerous." He looked up, meeting her gaze. "We are to people who prey on the weak." She hesitated, then handed him a small bouquet wrapped in newspaper. "For St. Mercer," she said. "Your founder. You protect strangers the way saints used to." Ronan accepted it without words. Down the street, engines idled one last time before shutting off completely. The night fell quiet. Not the fearful silence of before, but the calm that follows protection. Lydia turned to go, pausing as Ronan spoke. "You ever need us," he said. "You light a red candle in the window." She nodded. "And you'll come." He smiled. "We always come." Months later, the sign at Copper Ridge's entrance bore a new addition, a single red wing painted beside the town's name. Travelers often asked what it meant. Locals would smile and say, "That's our warning and our promise." Each spring, on the anniversary of that day, the angels rode back through town, helmets off, flags lowered, engines humming like reverent prayer. Children lined the sidewalks, not afraid but in awe. Lydia and Emma stood among them, candles in hand. When Ronan passed, he nodded, sunlight flashing off his mirrored lenses. At the far end of Main Street, they stopped before the bridge and laid a single bouquet of white lilies on the asphalt. Lydia's flowers. No speeches, no cameras, just a moment of silence, broken by the slow roll of engines. As they vanished toward the horizon, the townspeople swore they heard one last echo carried on the wind. Not a threat, but a vow: we watch our own. If this story stirred something inside you, if it reminded you that courage can roar louder than fear, then join the ride. Subscribe, like, and ring that bell for more cinematic biker tales. Because on every highway, somewhere, the angels still ride for those who can't.